Good morning, everyone. I welcome you all to this new method of teaching and learning process, that is e-learning, due to that we are going to have due to the effect of COVID-19. Now I will be discussing regarding solid waste management, that is with having a subject code 17cv651. Now we are going to discuss regarding the third module, right? We have already covered the module 1, right? We have covered in the module 1 we have covered the sources of solid waste, what are the different types of it, that is industrial, agriculture and industrial, etc, etc. We have discussed regarding physical and chemical composition of municipal solid waste, its generation rate. Now how to collect these solid wastes. We have discussed regarding the services, that is curb system, alley service, backyard system, etc, etc. Then we have discussed regarding how to transport the generated waste, that is a need of transfer stations, then route optimization, and then the solid waste management 2000 rules 2000 and then amendments. Now we are going to discuss on module 3, that is we are going to discuss regarding what is composting, what is aerobic and anaerobic method of composting, what is process restriction, then process microbiology. Then we are going to see design consideration, what is mechanical composting, what is vermicomposting. We are going to solve, if any problems are there, we are going to solve it. Then the important concept is sanitary landfilling, and definition. This composting and sanitary landfilling both are different concepts. This is both are a different concept, and then we are going to discuss regarding the advantages and disadvantages of sanitary landfilling, site selection, how to select the site for sanitary landfill, then the methods. Then we are going to see what is how to collect gas and leachate, what is leachate and all, we are going to discuss in detail. Then control of gas and leachate movement, then design of sanitary landfill, and if the problems on that. If you people are having any doubt on the particular subjects, then you can personally you can WhatsApp me, and after giving the explanatory this thing, we are going to provide you the notes on this particular modules. Now, in the third module, we are going to concentrate on composting. Now, I think you people already know what is composting. It is a method of the waste disposal method, that is the organic waste we are going to use, that is those who are the waste to those who are going to decompose, such kind of a waste we are going to use in this particular method of composting. This is one of the waste disposal method. If we are going to dispose the solid waste on a land, it is going to have the your ground pollution, then surface and subsurface water pollution, bad odor, etc, etc. Instead of throwing these such kind of a waste on a solid ground, we can use it, utilize it as a better product in order to increase the crop growth rate, rather than wasting it on and throwing it on a land. We can reuse it as a good product. Composting is the method of mixing the organic, that is biodegradable waste, with the soil and getting a manure that we call it as a compost. Why we use this as a manure? When we are going to use the organic solid waste, when it is going to mix with the soil is having certain amount of nutrient which is required for the growth of the crops or growth of the plant. When it is going to mix with the organic waste, it is going to increase the NPK value of the soil. This NPK value of the soil is very, very important for the greater crop growth rate. For that purpose, instead of throwing these organic solid waste and creating an say unwanted or undesirable environmental conditions, we are going to utilize as a better product in order to have the greater crop growth rate. This method of this particular thing, we want to have a greater crop growth rate, as well as in order to have a good amount of crop growth rate. So this is nothing but called as an the mixture of soil and organic waste. If we are going to mix it, we are going to get a manure which is going to help in the our increased crop growth rate and a good amount of growth of the plants as well as crops. This we need to keep it in our mind. Now in composting, there are two types. One is organic composting, one is inorganic composting. When we are going to mix the soil with the yard waste or kitchen waste, or with the newspaper, which can be easily, all these materials can be easily degradable. These are, we call it as an organic, as they are going to degrade. We call it as an organic waste. Now what is inorganic composting? Now what is inorganic composting is when we are going to mix the soil with the chemical, then we are going to get here also we are going to get manure or compost, but it is an inorganic. Why is we have mixed soil with the inorganic materials, that is with the chemicals. Now coming to the types of composting, there are two types of composting. One is aerobic composting, one is anaerobic composting. Now what is aerobic composting? Aerobic, as the name indicates, it is the composting, that is a mixture of soil and organic waste when we are going to mix it at a controlled conditions in presence of air. Remember, in presence of air is very important. I'll repeat, the mixture of soil as well as organic waste at a controlled conditions. If we, in the presence of air we are going to do it, we call it as an aerobic composting. Now this, and one more type is, we call it as an anaerobic composting. Now what is this anaerobic composting? Now anaerobic composting is again the mixture of soil as well as the organic waste, if we are going to do in the absence of air. I repeat, in the absence of air, the mixture of soil plus organic waste in the absence of air, if we are going to do it, we call it as an anaerobic composting. Between the aerobic and anaerobic composting, this is a very important question that is going to be asked in an exam for say 5 mark. They normally will be asking you the difference between the aerobic and the anaerobic composting. Now as I have told, the aerobic composting is nothing but it will be done in the presence of air, and anaerobic composting will be done in the absence of air. Now aerobic composting is going to, the second difference is it is going to release CO2, nitrite and nitrate, whereas anaerobic composting is going to give you methane and CO2. And the third difference between the aerobic and anaerobic is the aerobic composting, it requires a greater amount of energy is released, whereas in the anaerobic composting it is going to give you the small amount of energy. The aerobic composting is always, it is an exothermic reaction, whereas your anaerobic composting, it is an endothermic reaction. Aerobic composting will release more amount of temperature, and anaerobic composting will release less amount of temperature. Aerobic composting will take less time. That means the aerobic composting will give you the manure within a small amount of time. Small amount of means till 1 month or 15 days. And then anaerobic, it is going to take more time. It is going to take 4 to 6 months. Aerobic composting, it requires more space, whereas anaerobic composting, it requires very less amount of space. Now this more space and less space, I will explain how it is going to take more space and how it is going to take less space. Now this is very important type of a question that will be asked in your exam. Now I will be giving a detailed explanation on aerobic anaerobic composting. Now anaerobic composting is, again, it is in the absence of air. We also call this particular process as an Bangalore process. Remember, they may ask you in your exam either anaerobic composting, or they may ask you as the Bangalore composting. The anaerobic composting is also known as an Bangalore composting. Remember, this can be the Bangalore composting or anaerobic composting. It is done in the absence of air. So always it is done, it is below the ground level, that is we are going to excavate the depth of around 1.5 meter depth. Then we are, as I have told, what is composting? Composting is a mixture of soil as well as the organic waste. So what we are going to do is we are going to excavate 1.5 meter depth, and then we are going to have an alternate layer of soil as well as the solid waste. So here we are going to place an organic solid waste at a depth of around 5 centimeter, and here the soil we are going to mix it up to the depth. Night soil we are going to have 5 centimeter depth, and refuse we are going to have the 25 to 30 centimeter depth we are going to have it. So alternate layer here, mixing of soil and as well as a solid waste is occurring. So they are going to mix with each other, and they are going to have the interchange of the nutrients as well as NPK with it, and we are going to increase the NPK of the soil. So what is happening is here it is done below the ground, and then at the bottom again here alternate layer of soil as well as refuse we are going to place, and then at the bottom the night soil should not have the direct contact with the soil, so we are going to have 7.5 centimeter natural soil. And again at the top, in order to maintain the anaerobic, why we are going to place at top soil, we are going to have the soil layer on top, that is up to the depth of around 30 centimeter we are going to have it. Why we are having is why we are going to have is we need to maintain an anaerobic condition, as well as if we keep it open, the birds and all, it will come and it is going to disturb both the layer. And again if it is going to open, then again it is nothing but it is going to turn into an aerobic condition. And the manure we are going to get it for the Bangalore method is 4 to 6 months. Here we are going to have it for 4 to 6 months. And if you remember, I have told that anaerobic composting, it is going to take more space. Why more space is, see, if you want to have a more amount of compost, we can do it at a depth of 1.5 centimeters. So if we want to have more amount of compost, we need to have the number of excavations. In that number of excavations, we are going to get the compost we are not going to get, the compost will not get ready till the period of 4 to 6 months. If you want the greater amount of the compost, or in a good amount of quality, like this pit, we need to have the n